lorsque le mari appelle sa femme dans son lit et que celle-ci refuse, les anges la maudissent jusqu'à ce qu'elle se réveille. Les anges la maudissent jusqu'au matin. Et combien d'hommes se plaignent aux gens de science et aux imams de ce problème que les femmes refusent lorsque les maris les appellent. Nous ne disons pas que ceci est de la soumission, mais Allah Jalla wa Ala a mis cela comme ordre afin que tout se passe bien dans le couple. C'est lorsqu'elle sera respectueuse que tu seras honoré.
Look, there's nothing to be embarrassed about this. Death is the sentence.
So again, welcome to part 3. This one will be short because I don't want to talk too much about it. So what I will do is I will just explain real fast what will happen. Okay, the guy was in Tennessee because there were an attack from Muslim part in Chattanooga and Tennessee, and the guy, the television asked him to come and talk about it, and I did not want to get in like all the story, but you will have the link if you want to go and listen to it. I suggest you can go and listen to all what he says. But me, I will give you only the link. It's going to be like link part 1, link part 2, link part 3. In the part 3, I will condense and I will keep only the part where they say, where he says and he explains why we lose against Muslim, why Muslim win. And it's very so stupid, you will not even believe it. But anyway, and on this, I will finish with him. I will not come back. It's done for me, and I know I'm fat, I'm fucking ugly, and I did not shave because it's 4 a.m. like I said, and that's it. It's enough for me. So I will post that, of course, on Facebook, and it will be on YouTube, but I will make the link to Facebook. So when you go on my YouTube, you can see the link there because I will provide the link of this guy, or you will have also his name, and all you have to do is just type his name in YouTube and you will see all his lectures. So anyway, I just hope that even if it's a tiny bit, that I make you understand a little bit more about Muslim, Islam, the religion. Well, I think I will have done my job. If I did not, well, I did all this for nothing. And I hope that nobody will come and blow me up, blow my car, blow my brains. But I don't care. I don't care about them. They are so fucking stupid. They are strong when they are like 10, 20 against women, 50 against one man with guns and knives, and one guy with a huge weapon like we just saw in Colorado, or if they got a bomb belt or a bomb and sneak and run away because you're so scared, like the two fucking assholes in Boston. So anyway, they are strong because they are hypocrites. That's all. So that's it. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I'm not Christian, I'm not Hinduist, I'm just spiritual. I just want you to understand that I'm not Muslim, I'm not Christian, I'm spiritual. And since I said I'm spiritual, I'm more aided by them than a real Christian, because they hate when people do not believe in anything. So anyway, me, I believe in spirituality. That's all. Thank you. Bye.
So that's the other part of the message I bring you. Now then, let's go with this. So there's objective Islam and there's subjective Islam. Official Islam is subjective. Now then, I want to talk about how we're losing a war. You all may be aware of some things that Islam does and are not. I have no idea. But this is my life. I'm a 74-year-old man with a 72-year-old wife, and we devote our lives to keeping up with what is happening in Islam, and in particular, keeping up with what's happening with it here in Tennessee. I'm going to go over some points with you which you may not be aware of, because they all show how we're not doing it the right way. A 747 leaves Syria. This story was told to me by an Iraqi Christian. It is filled with refugees. It contains one Christian. That's losing. You all have experienced the fact that law enforcement has been in town here. You need to know this, that law enforcement under Obama has been given direct orders via Holder, he was the Attorney General, that henceforth people such as myself would never be allowed to speak to federal agencies. That only those people who are approved by the government can speak to federal agencies, and basically that means approval by the Muslim Brotherhood. I know about this in particular because one of the trainers at the FBI said, "Bill, your files were the last ones we purged." Because the files were purged of all work by such people as myself. And I told them, I says, look, these are just statistical summaries, just I've just given you, and they said, it is offensive to Islam, they will go. And so my records were purged. The same thing is true here in Tennessee. Under direct orders of Bill Haslam, people such as myself, John Guandolo, Steve Coughlin, or others who know the doctrine of Islam are forbidden under direct orders to speak to law enforcement in this state. The only ones allowed to speak to law enforcement about Islam is the American Muslim Advisory Council, which is a Muslim Brotherhood operation. Well, I read in the paper and heard some people say that this was a senseless killing here in Chattanooga. Funny. It made perfect sense to me. But law enforcement is like, I don't know. What do you think happened? We hear that Islamic State is not Islamic. Islamic State is 100% Islamic. Everything they do is justified by Hadith, Sirah, and Quran. And the Caliph, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, always gives a little writing, or someone does it for him, as to why, for instance, sex slaves are part of Islam. But not knowing that that is a lie is losing a battle. I do a radio show in Nashville, Tennessee from 11 to 12 every Friday. I'm a guest. The host is on for 3 hours every day, 5 days a week. The segment that I'm on is the most popular segment he runs. Here's the problem. There's only one such program devoted in the entire United States. This is called Losing. The head of the Bible department of a large Christian university has stated in a book that I would never say that Christianity is a better religion than Islam. That's called losing. When a woman goes to her pastor and says, I'm dating a Muslim man, do you think it would be okay for me to marry him? And he says, oh yes, it will help bring the religions closer together. That's losing. By the way, later there was a divorce. The judge gave the children to the man. He left town the next week. That's losing. I went to see a very large Christian publisher. I was introduced, so I wasn't just a stranger walking in off the street. And they told me two things that were of great interest. Number one, they had no interest in Islam. They would never publish a book which would allow a pastor to understand the Quran. And they would never publish a book which would allow anybody to understand the Sunnah of Muhammad. That's losing. They then further went ahead and stated that Islam was collapsing in the United States and Europe. It would soon just go away anyway, and that the hope of Christianity was in China and Africa. That's called losing. There's something, one of Nashville, Tennessee's favorite indoor sports are religious interfaith dialogues. The first one that happened, asked the pastor, have you read the Quran? No. The rabbi, have you read the Quran? No. Ask the imam, have you read the Old Testament? Oh yes, I took a course in it. Have you read the New Testament? Oh yes, I took a course in it. That's called losing. Only the imam was prepared. In Slovakia, which is an atheist nation in Europe, has said to the EU about the refugees, send us the Christians. Keep your Muslims. That's an atheist nation. In the United States, we go, huh? That's called losing. By the way, do you know who's making the money off of bringing the refugees in? Christian churches. That's called losing. In the last election, how many of you asked any of the political candidates, where do you stand on the refugee issue? I'm not aware of anybody who did that. Well, of course I did. There's another problem. Nashville, Tennessee is called the buckle on the Bible Belt. Let me assure you that if that is true, the church's pants are down around its ankles. Why do I say that? Because you can be a Muslim and come to Middle Tennessee and your religion is totally safe. There won't be any Christian who's going to convert you. They're not even going to try. They're not going to bring the issue up. That's called losing. Well, there's some new textbooks that we're going to have here in the state of Tennessee. They're going to be educating our youth, and they exalt Islam and denigrate Christianity and barely mention it. The problem is when we analyzed these textbooks and spoke out about it, there was not a single pastor who became outraged. That's called losing. By the way, something that's beginning to happen is that Christian children are converting to Islam, both on the internet and because of contacts at school. And why shouldn't they? Because they're told by such things as the Bible teacher and their textbooks that, they're all the same. That's called losing. I organized a demonstration for the persecuted Christians in the Middle East. I announced it for 2 straight Fridays on my radio show. I got 40 people, 40. At an interfaith dialogue which occurs in Nashville, Tennessee, 400 will come. And when there was a bill that contemplated some limitation on the Sharia, 1,000 Muslims showed up. 1,000. They came from Memphis, they came from Jackson, they came from Chattanooga, they came from Nashville, they came from Knoxville. That's called winning. 40 people showed up to say something about the persecuted Christians. That's called losing. In the last presidential election, 3 out of 4 evangelicals did not vote. That's called losing. I said something to one Christian about the persecuted cops. He says, they're not really Christians. That's called losing. So these are just little tactical losses, but they're very powerful, and we need to look at these, because if you're losing, you need to analyze how you're losing so that you can turn all those points around, because all of these things can be done better. So let's now go into what would winning look like. All right. This is another thing on losing. This is an event that's going to be held in Vanderbilt University. It's an all-day event. It's sponsored by the government, the university, big organizations. All the presenters are Christian. And this program, by the way, which will come out with heavy public relations, was put together by a Muslim Brotherhood representative who is a full-time lobbyist at the legislature. Now I want to point out some details here. The woman who's going to speak for Islam is a former Christian. All right? The General Stone who's going to speak is a Christian. He thinks that if you love Muslims enough, they'll love you back and everything's going to be good. He says we can reform Muslims. He, by the way, ran the prison in Iraq, which turned out most of the military officers for Islamic State. So that's how well his re-education campaign worked. He prepared the leaders, military leaders of Islamic State. Then we have a reverend, I forget what his name is, and he's all going to speak on Islam, what a wonderful thing it is.